Hey there guys, Miasma of Faith back with another episode of Super Street Fighter 4. Now in this episode you're going to notice we're playing as Akuma, and you're probably thinking to yourself, wait, Akuma's not low tier, why are you playing him? Well, that's because I got a very special request from a good pal of mine. His name's the Terminator 1233, there's a shout out for you, bud. And he said, please play Akuma, so I went ahead and did it. Now I have to admit, I'm not great with Akuma, and upon that, I have just gotten over a sprained wrist. My right wrist, my main hand, because I am right-handed, was really badly sprained. So I haven't really been able to play games for very much. And to be honest, it's part of the reason why I just didn't do very good when I was playing as Akuma this whole time. But I decided, you know what, I need to upload something. It's been way too long since I've uploaded something. So I decided to muscle through, try it anyway. So here we go. We have it at this. I did drop a lot of combos. There was a lot of like real scrubby moments with this video, so you'll kind of have to bear with me. I've tried to kind of step it up, as you've noticed. The bottom right is blank, but I will be throwing in really tiny videos there every now and then that'll kind of correlate to what I'm talking about. And if I do a real basic combo, I'll be sure to point it out to you guys so you know what I did. This is not a live commentary, this is a post commentary, unlike all my other Street Fighter videos. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, first things first, who or what is Akuma? Well, in Japanese, the word Akuma loosely translates to the word devil or demon, so that pretty much gives you your description of the character. In Japan, Akuma is actually called Goki, which translates literally to great demon. Akuma first showed up in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo in 1994 as a secret character and hidden boss. And the secrecy revolving around Akuma made him a character that you almost didn't believe in. Because I'm sure everyone out there had that friend who would just be like, oh yeah man, I just, did this and Chun-Li took off her shirt or something like that. Those rumors went around all the time. I mean, Mortal Kombat had just came out and it was really hyped on all the secrets, and this was kind of Street Fighter's answer to that. And Akuma, if you did see him, struck in your mind. I mean, that red hair, those blazing symbol on his back, his awesome moves, and of course the freaking difficulty. But how did you unlock him? Well, it was actually really tricky. You had to defeat all 8 preliminary opponents, Balrog, Vega, Sagat, all without continuing at all, and you either had to get a high score or reach the final match in less than 25 minutes, and then, and only then, would Akuma reveal himself once you reached M. Bison. What would happen is at the very beginning of the fight, Akuma would do the Shungoku Satsu attack, the Raging Demon, and he would grab Bison, knock him out, and then boom, he was your final boss. That's who you had to fight. And he actually didn't have a name on his life bar back there, and his small little portrait was just completely black. So, needless to say, when your friend or some stranger at the arcade came up to you and told you that they had just unlocked this super hidden character by winning against every fighter and blah 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 blah, you, or at least I, tended to kind of write it off as like, yeah, right, But then in the next couple games, Akuma would just keep making these random appearances via codes that you would input at the character selection screen to unlock them, until it actually became pretty common knowledge that he was a big factor in the Street Fighter universe. So, where does he fit in the Street Fighter universe? Akuma is the self-proclaimed master of the fist, and is an extremely cold and powerful warrior whose sole purpose is to hone his fighting skills by battling and destroying strong foes. He is the brother of Goken, who is the trainer of Ken and Ryu, and takes an extreme interest in Ryu because he sees that Ryu has the same potential to get possessed by the Setsui no Hado. Now, the Setsui no Hado is this dark Hado energy that Akuma has given himself into, which has allowed him to become the extremely powerful dark warrior that he is. There are indeed even more powerful versions of Akuma where he has completely given himself into the Setsui no Hado, and that is known as Shin Akuma or Oni. It seems that Akuma hasn't given in to the Setsui no Hado because he isn't as, evil as he may look. I mean, this is really a hard point to discuss, because Akuma is, without a doubt, pretty evil. I mean, the Setsui no Hado, that literally translates to around, surge of the intent to kill, or like a killing intent. So basically, he wants to fight people to the death. That's pretty evil. In Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, he promptly comes in and kills, well, more or less, kills M. Bison. That's evil, right? Well, not exactly. I would describe Akuma as I guess if you think of it in terms of the morality code, he's a lawful evil. Because also, you have to keep in mind that Akuma tends to hold back whenever he fights people. Like, whenever he fights someone like Ryu, he doesn't kill him. He's just trying to unlock Ryu's true potential. There are also scenes in extracanatory, I just made that word up, manga and other stories that where he shows kindness to others, and I'm pretty sure it's almost known that he won't fight someone who he doesn't deem worthy. So he's not a murderer. He's not going out and just killing people. Instead, he's just looking for that worthy opponent, and he's trying to become the strongest warrior that he can possibly be. And in order to do that, he had to take in the Setsui no Hado, and that made him a denizen of hell, which is an inherently bad thing to do, you know, to take in a fighting style that thrives on you wanting to kill. But it almost doesn't seem like Akuma is evil. I don't know. He really rides that borderline. Because, like, now, M. Bison, he's evil. He is, without a doubt, true evil. And then you see someone like Akuma willing to kill M. Bison because he sees him as the plague on the earth and he's trying to get rid of him. So what does that make Akuma? I mean, do you have any idea? If so, let me know. So I've talked about Setsui no Hado and, you know, Goken, Akuma's brother, but I haven't really gotten into the story of Akuma. Well, Akuma and his brother Goken were students of Gotetsu. Gotetsu taught a nameless, life-threatening martial art which incorporated elements of karate, judo, and kempo. Now, you can see all of these fighting styles not only in Goken and Akuma. You know, they used the karate, judo, kempo, but also Ryu and Ken, who were trained by Goken, so it makes sense. He taught the Shungoku Satsu. I think that means like hell murder, you know, killing, whatever I said before. It's a lethal technique which is incredibly powerful but puts you in danger. As the brothers progressed under Gotatsu's tutelage, a dispute arose around the true nature of the fighting style and the path to master it. Long story short, Goken wasn't able to accept the violent nature of the Setsui no Hado, and he left Gotetsu to begin his own dojo, which his master actually did not oppose. His master said, that's okay, go do your own thing. Akuma continued Gotetsu's teaching and vowed to use their fighting style as it was intended. Basically, he intended to kill people with it. So again, long story short, Goken goes off and he takes the fighting style and he develops it in a way that is basically just self-discipline, self-defense, and fighting, and Akuma goes down his own path, eventually leaves his master, taps into the Setsui no Hado, and develops a lust to fight to the death, which, again, their master had been able to use the Setsui no Hado without giving into the dark side. Goken left without even trying to tap into the Setsui no Hado, and Akuma decides to tap into the Setsui no Hado and promptly becomes evil and wants to start fighting people to the death using the Setsui no Hado. So, after Akuma taps into the Setsui no Hado, he goes back and uses the Shungoku Satsu on his trainer Gotetsu, and that actually kills him, and he believes that he is the true master of the art, took the prayer beads from his dead master and placed it around his neck. Those are what are around his neck. Goku goes to visit his master to see how he's doing, only to find his lifeless body and his brother, who no longer looks human and is beginning to look like that demon that we know Akuma to be. Shocked, Goken looks at Akuma and says nothing and just leaves for the woods. Years go by. Eventually, Akuma fights Goken, while the then young duo of Ryu and Ken watch. Akuma told Goken that he wasn't strong enough to face him without giving in to the killing intent, and Goken said that the art was more than just death and destruction, and says that Akuma is dishonoring their entire legacy. The fight rages on, and Goken comes out the victor. Akuma, shocked that he could lose, says, "Kill me," and Goken won't do it. He won't kill his brother. which makes Akuma call him weak and declare that he would return one day and he would take Goken out. Cut to a few years later. Akuma comes back to Goken's dojo, fights him in battle, uses the Shungoku Satsu on him, and Akuma thinks that he's actually dead, not knowing that Goken somehow managed to live through the attack there. I think he, emptied his soul and only was put into a coma, etc., etc., and that's how Goken comes back years later in Street Fighter 4. And that's pretty much all the backstory of Akuma. Now, what about in the games itself? Because I haven't even talked about the actual games. That's just his backstory. I'm going to try and make this a little more expedited. Akuma's first real appearance is in Street Fighter Alpha 2. Even though he was playable in Super Street Fighter Turbo 2 and Street Fighter Alpha, the first time he actually had was on the character selection screen without the use of codes and actually had a story was in Street Fighter Alpha 2. And in Street Fighter Alpha 2, Akuma is searching the globe looking for that worthy fighter to challenge. He finds Gen, the old man, who I think first appeared in Street Fighter Alpha or Street Fighter Alpha 2, I can't remember offhand. Either way, he fights Gen, uses the Shungoku Satsu on Gen, and Gen survives it. Akuma is excited by this because he thinks, have I finally found the opponent that I've been looking for? And then Gen begins to start choking, coughing, and he starts coughing up blood. And Akuma looks at him and realizes that he's sick. So he actually decides not to fight his opponent because he realizes it's not fair. And this is one of those times when I was talking about before, when it's like, that's not a really evil thing. That doesn't seem very evil of Akuma to spare him because he realizes the fight isn't fair. Because Gen literally tells Akuma, kill me. He doesn't want the fight to carry on any longer. And Akuma just leaves. And instead decides to find Ryu, thinking, okay, well, I thought I had met my match, but I hadn't, so I'm going to have to literally train and make my match. So he finds Akuma, Akuma finds Ryu, he fights Ryu, he finds him, then he fights him, and Ryu wins, but then it's like, Akuma was only testing him, and he says, the next time I see you, you had better have tapped into the Setsui no Hado, and then and only then will you be able to beat me. Cut to Street Fighter Alpha 3. In Street Fighter Alpha 3, Akuma is waiting for Ryu to embrace the Setsui no Hado. He encounters Adon, Sagat's pupil, the jackass, if you ask me. Adon is pretty much like, or however you say it, Adon, is like, my fighting style is the best. He fights Akuma, he loses. And again, Akuma spares him, saying, you're unworthy of me killing you. Then, later on, Akuma is challenged by M. Bison. Akuma is unable to sense Bison's massive power, which was done through the Psycho Drive. He attacks thinking that he's going to have an easy victory. He uses the Shungoku Satsu. The technique tears the very fabric of the victim's soul, but Bison has no soul and is able to withstand the move without flinching and counters. The counter takes down Akuma, and Bison mocks him before leaving, realizing that would upset the Great Warrior more than anything else. And Gen arrives, remember the old man, and they actually have this second battle to which the results are unknown. However, unbeknownst to Akuma, Ryu had started to tap into the Setsui no Hado while battling in the M. Bison, but rejected it, saying that a true warrior does not rely on violent intent, therefore not giving Akuma the battle that he would want. Now we come to the timeline of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is something like, he doesn't actually enter the World Warrior Tournament, but he monitors the events, trying to look for an adequate challenge. Prior to the final fight, he ambushes M. Bison and makes short work of him using the Shungoku Satsu, because Bison was forced to merge with a part of his expelled soul in order to survive the explosion of the Shadaloo compound in Street Fighter Alpha 3. He's no longer impervious to it because he actually has a bit of a soul now. That's also why Rose is such a big deal to M. Bison. And I know that's confusing, so you have to pay attention to the M. Bison episode because he's really confusing with, he's kind of like a shell, and his soul is, on an external drive, the Psycho Drive, and his body is just a shell, and that's why he's able to just keep coming back and being put into different bodies. Where was I? Oh yeah, he beats M. Bison because M. Bison has part of a soul. Akuma then engages in combat with the second finalist, but the identity of the finalist and the outcome of the bout is actually unknown because we don't know what happens after Street Fighter 2. That is technically the last part in the Street Fighter canon, at least as far as... No, because there's Street Fighter 3, but we still don't know what happened in Street Fighter 2. Then there's Street Fighter 4. There's Seth Tournament. Same thing over and over again. Akuma's trying to find someone to fight. He goes to Ryu, tries to get him to use his head so he knows Hado. It's unsuccessful. And last but not least, Street Fighter 3, and it's pretty much the same thing as Street Fighter 2. Akuma doesn't actually enter the World Warrior Tournament. I guess he's too lazy or something for that. So he just lurks in the shadow. He hits Gil, the tournament sponsor, with the Shogoku Satsu, and leaves without realizing that Gil has the power to resurrect himself. And if you've played Street Fighter 3, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is BS. So Gil resurrects himself, Akuma leaves, trains relentlessly, learns several new techniques, something about, I think in the ending video he takes on a tidal wave or something like that, and then eventually he goes and he fights Oro in a simple, inconclusive battle with each of the others realizing that they're super powerful and might actually be equal, and it's kind of like, in the end, he finds someone who is like his equal, even though they kind of have contempt for each other. So, and that's kind of like where it ends. Oro, Akuma, they're equals, they're gonna fight, and you don't know what's gonna happen. Whew. And there's all that. So anyway, guys, I guess that brings us to the conclusion of this Let's Play episode of Akuma. I hope you guys enjoyed it, maybe picked up on a thing or two. I'll post a couple annotations, probably at the beginning or here, either or, that'll link you to some better tutorials, so you can really go more in depth. Again, this is trying to scratch the surface and tell you more about the character. Akuma, of course, is a bit of a glass cannon, low health, high output, but you know, you'll figure out that more as you go along and play. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Tune in next time. Who knows what it'll be. This is Miasma of Faith signing off.